Good morning, everyone. What do you say we get started and glue some wood together? Let me set my coffee down right quick and we'll get started, okay? See you in just a second. Well, this morning, actually, I'll cover a couple things. So in an earlier video, I was discussing about managing time with building and having a full house, a family, and everything that comes along with it. Today is a prime example. What's going on today? It's actually my youngest son's 8th birthday party. He's going to have a bunch of friends over here before too long. We have a birthday party to get ready for, and also this evening we got a bunch of personal friends that are like family that are coming by. So today's going to be kind of limited on time. I know this, but I'm going to get some building done. And here's how this works. Me, I'm an early riser. Sleeping into me is 5 a.m. I get up, I have some coffee, I get my chores done, and then whatever time I get done to the time the rest of the family gets up, it's kind of my time of the day, and that's when I choose to build. You, on the other hand, it may be just the opposite. Maybe you like to stay up later while the rest of the family goes to bed. That would be your time to build. Or let's say you have a couple days off in the middle of the week where the family is at school or your spouse is at work or whatever the case may be. That would be your time to build. So this morning, I don't have a whole lot of time, but after I reviewed the manual, I feel that we can get both the horizontal and the vertical stabilizer put together. So I've got my foam board already set up that I picked up at a local department store for free. They just gave it to me, they were going to pitch it. So that's what I build off of. It's nice. It's a foam board, it's got a paper backing on it. It's pretty durable, and we can go ahead and get our building surface ready. Now, our stabilizer is not huge, so we don't necessarily need to cover the whole thing. Remember in that previous video, I told you you're going to have to get some wax paper. Here's the wax paper that we're going to use, and what we're going to do, we're going to apply it to our building surface. We don't need a huge piece, so let's go ahead and prep our building surface. And what this does, this actually prevents our work that we glue together from sticking to our building board, table, whatever it is we're going to do. So I'm going to rip a piece about that long. That should be sufficient for both surfaces. Set that off to the side there. What I do, I like things to be nice and flat. I already know our table's flat, our board is flat. Put the curl side down on our paper. That's flat as well. Let me get a couple parts that we're going to need along with our manual, and we'll be right back. Okay, here we are. I've got our instruction manual and our parts ready to go. One thing that Great Plains is really good about are in the beginner kits such as this one, they're really good about keeping our parts bundled together per assembly. When I went to go get the parts out, they had the horizontal stabilizer parts banded together and ready to go. That's really cool. And also the same for the vertical stabilizer or the rudder. All the parts are banded together and ready to go. So what we're going to do, according to the instructions, we're going to do our horizontal stabilizer first and the elevator. Okay, we're going to go ahead and unband these. Okay, we have our parts unbanded here. This is the parts for our horizontal stabilizer. We've got the actual elevator. If you see, it's just plain square stock. We're going to shape that, set that off to the side. And a couple terms that you need to know about in the world of aviation, period, is leading edge and trailing edge, or fore and aft. Here we have the leading edge, or the fore piece of the stabilizer, and then the aft piece. Now, a couple things we want to do. We want to look down and make sure they're straight. And I've never really had a problem out of a Great Plains kit. These things are pretty straight when they show up. You notice we don't have any plans underneath here because, well, the parts are already, they're sheeted parts. They're already ready to go. They're cut to the shape we need. Just some minor sanding needs to be done. So I'll lay them on my wax paper. One thing we need to do is make sure we get our edges lined up, such as right here. Okay, see, no good. Good. Okay. And pull them together and make sure we're lined up. And you know, if you get it off maybe like a 32nd of an inch or so, that's fine. But if what we're going to do now is we're going to tack these pieces together with our thin CA. Okay. Now, if you're familiar with welding at all, you can kind of use that as an analogy. We'll tack our pieces together, and then we'll run a bead of glue to hold it together, because it's rather difficult to hold it in place and run a bead of glue and not wind up sticking ourselves to our project. So I'll make sure we're good and flush over on this end, and I'll take about a 1/2 of an inch in or so. When we're ready, I'll put a drop of glue right on the seam. Okay, we'll let that soak into the wood. You can kind of see the dot right here. It's soaking in. Get it a chance to work. It takes me, maybe 5 seconds or so. Then I'll fill down our stabilizer. Come over here. Make sure we're flush over here. Hold it together. Put a drop of glue. Let that work. And for good measure, we'll come back here in the middle section. We'll find our seam. Put another drop. Okay. You can take your finger and kind of smooth that out. Just don't let your finger set too long, because you will stick to your project. We don't want to do that. Okay. Now, see, this works pretty quick. Our thin CA works pretty quick. So now what we need to do, we need to flip our project over, and we're going to run a bead of glue along the seam. Now, see, that's why we use wax paper. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but here's our seam right here in our project. And what I'll do, see, a bit of wax paper there. Just peel that off. Fairly easy because it's wax coated. And then, let's see here, get you in a better position. And what I'll do, I'll just take it and I'll hold it. And I'm holding it like this for the camera. I'll just put a little bit of CA out. Get it in our seam here. Just let it run down the seam. It'll get in there just fine. Look down there, you can see our edge. Smooth that out, and it will feel rough, okay, because what it does, it hardens those little balsa grains. And makes it kind of rough feeling, which is fine. We're going to come back and sand that as the last thing we're going to do. Okay, now that I got the one side glued, I'm going to go ahead and come back, glue the other side. And you got to look, because sometimes that seam is hard to see. If you want, you can actually come back with a ballpoint pen and draw over your seam if you want, to help make it easier to see. I use the light to reflect the difference in the wood. Just making sure we get it there. Okay, everything is glued together. See, that's pretty simple, huh? Now, it's an easy trainer. We're going to take a look down and make sure we're good and straight. Everything looks good. Look down our leading edge. Down our trailing edge, make sure we're good and straight. All right, awesome, we're good to go. This piece is now done, glued together. This is our elevator. This is the part of the airplane that's going to be in the back. It's going to go up and down, making our airplane go up and down. So we don't need that just yet. We're going to deviate from the directions a little bit when it comes time for hinging. I like to save that for last, after covering. Makes covering a whole lot easier. For the purpose of this video, we're going to do it that way. Okay, we're going to set those aside. Keep that off of the seam, that way we don't glue ourselves together. Now we're going to do the vertical fin. Okay, now it's all banded together, so all our parts are here. Take that off. There we have our rudder. Okay, that's going to be the part of the airplane in the back that stands up and goes side to side, so we can coordinate our turns. And you'll also notice that it'll be moving on ground control when we get to that point later. And we also have our parts for our vertical fin. Okay, it's kind of cut kind of funky looking there, huh? Okay, well, we need to look at our directions and see what's going on. Ah, okay, there it is. We just lay our parts out on the table to match the picture. That's why I love these directions. They match, okay? We've got the little crook that goes in the back on the bottom, and then our triangle piece that matches and follows the contour of the fin. All right, so let's do that right quick. All right, there's our piece. We've got our little notch at the bottom towards the back. We'll set this up, make sure, just like on our elevator, our lines are flush. Uh-oh, I see a problem here that we're going to have to get rid of. We got a gap right there. One of two things we can do at this point. We can either sand it and get it flush, or we can fill it with CA, or thick CA. Personally, I recommend sanding it and making it flush. That's where we get our sanding block with 3M sandpaper. Okay. We'll just kind of use a flat piece, pour any glue is involved, find out where you're crooked at. Well, it's clearly our triangle stock. It's not exactly perfect, but hey, it's all right. It's part of the hobby. We'll just kind of sand it a little bit. And I'm using some rough, coarse 60 grit. Okay. All right. We got a little bit of a gap there. That's fine. But our part fits like it's supposed to now. And just like on the horizontal stabilizer, we're going to make sure we're flush here. Okay. If you feel like a little bit of a lip there, that's fine, because we're going to sand this later. Okay. So now we take our CA. I'm going to put a drop there on that seam, kind of smooth it out with our finger, and you'll feel a little bit of a seam here. Again, that's fine. We're going to sand it down. If you watched our other video about sanding and prep tools and all the tools we're going to need for this build, I talked about sanding and how important it is to sand our models before we cover them. So now we got this tacked down. I'm going to look over here. Everything feels really smooth, really nice. So I'm going to put a drop down here. Kind of smooth that out with my finger. Again, don't hold your finger still or you're going to wind up with your finger stuck to your model. Okay, we're not stuck to our paper. We'll flip it over. Okay. Let's see right here where we sanded, we didn't quite get it just right. So, we need to fill that. We're going to use a little bit thicker CA. This is our Tower Hobbies medium. In other words, it's just a little thicker than our thin stuff. It won't quite as run out quite as fast. Sometimes those things will. Okay, now we got a good flow. And what I'll do, I'll hold it down and I'll just start at one end and run a bead just like we did on the elevator. Right down the seam. Now with the medium stuff, it takes a little longer to work, which is fine. I'll just hold that there a second, let it work, smooth it out with our finger. I know you may be thinking, well, why aren't we using a Q-tip? Good question. The reason we don't use a Q-tip, this stuff bonds really well with cotton, even the synthetic. And what you're going to wind up with, you're going to have a bunch of cotton fibers in your glue that are poking out. It looks like you trapped buckwheat in your joint, and that's no fun to get rid of, honestly. Okay, our gap is full, and I can feel it warming up, and that's kind of the neat thing about CA is that it actually heats up as it sets. I mean, it gets warm. That's the chemical reaction that makes it all there. And what we'll do, we'll take a look down, make sure we're straight, and that looks pretty darn good. Okay, now we're going to block sand it a little later to kind of pull everything in. There's just a little bit of a wane to it, but that's fine. That'll come out. Okay, well, believe it or not, that's it. Okay, our horizontal and our vertical stabilizer is done. Here's our rudder. This piece will actually mount like so after a little bit of shaping. I mean, we got to bevel the edges so it'll be free to move back here. And we're going to do the same thing on our elevator as well. It'll set back, and this will be vertical. And this piece will actually go like so to help coordinate our turns and also help us in ground control. We're actually setting up really nice right there. Awesome. Now, one thing we can do, you want to hand me that? Yes. Oh, guys, I got my little helper in here, our birthday boy. His name's Ryan. Say hi, Ryan.
Hi.
And yesterday was his 8th birthday. You want to show us what you got for your birthday?
I got a rifle pellet gun.
A pellet gun, huh? What kind is it? Is it a pump or the spring action?
It's a pump.
All right, the good kind. We can go rabbit hunting now, huh?
Yeah, like
all
hare
right.
hunting or something.
Awesome. All right, well, he's waiting for daylight so we can do some target shooting this morning. So I'm taking this opportunity while it's still dark outside to work on our model. Okay, one thing we can do, we have our gap, okay? Yuck. Is it going to hurt anything? Probably not, but you really look at it, there's an area from here to here where we're not actually bonded that well. So what I'm going to do, actually, if you would, Ryan, hand me one of those sanding pads here. No. Here, this guy right here. Okay. 3M makes this really cool sanding pad that's washable. Instead of using this, that's a little too coarse for what we're going to do. They're washable, they're reusable. I suggest getting some. I've got a whole box over here we'll go over later on what's available. But what I'll do, we'll just kind of sand that down a little bit because we're going to fill that. Okay? Now look, as we're sanding here, smoothing that out. If I can keep from knocking it out of there. This is a little trick. I've got a couple options that we can do here. We're just smoothing that out. Our glue's dry enough to do so, but if you can see, hang on here. I don't know if you can see it or not. I don't want to touch it because it'll actually knock it out of the crevice. But we have filled our crack with sawdust. That's a good thing. Don't blow it out of there. You got to be very careful. Put a drop of CA in there, right on the line. And I'm using the thin because it's real thin and it's got that capillary action that will actually hold that sawdust in place. On the other side, I'll show you another technique that we use. Okay, we'll let that give that a second to work, and I'm going to run my finger down either side. I don't really want to run my finger down the middle because all we'll do is just wipe all that sawdust out of there. This way we're not really adding a whole lot of weight to the airplane. You do kind of want to be weight conscious. This is a powered airplane. It's not as vital as it is on a sailplane. We got one of those we're going to build at some point too. And while we're waiting on this to work, I want to thank the folks at towerhobbies.com, Tim especially. Without their participation in this build would not be happening. So make sure you go by their on their Facebook page at Tower Hobbies, or you can go to towerhobbies.com, check out all the cool stuff. Make sure you tell them thank you. Okay, this side is pretty well tacky, okay? And we got a nice fill on our gap there. That's awesome. What that does, that adds more strength to it. See, that CA works pretty darn fast. That allows you to move forward with your builds. Okay, we're not tacky over here anymore. It's kind of warm, but that's just how it works. Okay, now we'll flip it over. We'll sand our joint, kind of smooth it out. And the reason why we do so much sanding is because when we go to cover this, everything shows. Okay? Believe it or not, it all shows. I'm even going to sand the bottom side here. Sorry about that. I'm not sure if I'll be able to edit that out. But I sanded the bottom side here. We're going to come back. We're going to make sure we get this really good. All right. We're looking it over real good here. Now we got some shaping to do to this darn thing. So we're going to let our glue set up and dry. It's important. It's really easy to keep moving forward and keep working because the glue does tack up pretty quick, but it still needs some time to fully set. So really I'm happy with what we have here. The camera's not showing the justice of having this gap filled. It still looks like it's there, but trust me, it's filled. So what we need to do next, we need to come back and shape our leading edge of our vertical stabilizer. We also need to come back and shape the leading edge of our horizontal stabilizer. We also need to bevel our elevator, okay? And we need...
Hey Dad, I'm hungry.
Okay, bud, let me finish this up right quick and we'll go make some breakfast. How does that sound?
Good.
All right, cool. We need to come back to our rudder, and we also need to bevel this edge. The reason is this is actually a moving surface, and we need it to be able to move, and in order to do so, we need to bevel it. Okay, all right, well, I've got family stuff I need to go take care of, but, we've actually came a long way. We have parts built, ready to sand, and we'll get back to that a little later. Thanks for watching Big Sky Hobby Corner.